Joining me today is James Wilson, Senior Analyst at RBS Morgans based in Australia. James, thank you for joining me today.
No problems. Thanks, Alex.
So we're going to talk some mining. We're going to talk mining in your neck of the woods, Australia. Now tell me, I've noticed a lot of, I wouldn't say negativity, but it's not overtly positive about mining in Australia right now. Can you explain to me a bit what's going on down there?
Well, there's obviously a lot of smaller companies which are hurting a little bit at the moment, obviously with capital raises, trying to find funds to do further exploration, mines with declining grades, increasing costs of production and whatnot. So generally the mining industry in Australia is finding it quite tough. They're reacting to that by changing their production profiles, trying to reduce costs, strip out costs where they can and maintain profitability.
Politics in Australia regarding mining, what is the latest coming out of the country?
Well, we've seen a lot over the last few years with the mineral resources rent tax for the bulks. Now we're starting to see some of the states are considering potentially increasing royalties in some of the gold companies, and that's put a bit of a scare amongst the local gold companies because they're finding it tough as it is with lower gold prices, increasing costs, and now on top of this potentially an increased gold royalty. It's always a problem, and it's something they defend quite vehemently in the industry.
Now, also in Australia, sticking with the country, of course, I learned that there was, I wouldn't call it an issue, but there's this thing called cover, right? Rock that sits above deposits, and it takes over 80% of the landmass. So, I mean, while it's impressive that Australia has become such a leading jurisdiction with only 20% of its landmass, is this at all worrisome at some point that, you know, you have potential deposits, enormous deposits that might not be discovered because of cover?
Well, that's something that we deal with in Australia. It's a sunburnt country. It's a lot of weathering profile, a big, deep weathering profile in some parts of the country. But the technology is actually catching up as well. We're having some big wins. The Sandfire Resources guys was a blind deposit over 150 metres undercover. Tropicana with Anglo Gold. That was almost a blind deposit with a very low order geochemical profile, yet it's nearly a 10 million ounce deposit. And most recently the Sirius Resources guys finding probably one of the highest grade or largest new nickel discoveries in Australia in recent times, and that was undercover as well. So we deal with it. Technology is catching up, you know, the high powered electromagnetics that we do in geophysics and whatnot. And the intelligence and the research behind that is also catching up. There's no doubt that it is tough. It's not like some places in South America where you've got these mineralised gossans, or in Argentina and places like that where these deposits are still sticking out of the ground. A lot of the low-hanging fruit has been discovered already, so it's taking a lot of smarts, but the payoff is there's some potentially very, very big deposits still yet to be discovered in Australia.
And that brings up exploration. Exploration, you know, one of the first things to be cut in times like this. Junior companies obviously struggling. Exploration does cost money. These technologies that you speak about, would they be affordable to these companies to maybe not get it on the cheap, but maybe?
Very, very much so. And people are preferring to do the geophysics these days instead of drilling lots and lots of drill holes. And the more you drill, the more you find. But a lot more intelligence put behind and a lot more focus on making every single drill hole count. Instead of drilling a pattern of, say, 20,000 metres worth of drill holes, these guys might now go for like a 5,000 metre drill program, but put some decent effort into the high-powered geophysics and a bit more technology backing behind these things, and looking at the geochemistry and looking a bit more into the geology, I guess.
Let's switch over to Newcrest. Earlier this month, there was news that there was a shake-up with the board and executives at the company. Yep. Based on the mining industry in the past, where there was a slew of CEO dismissals, is this maybe a bit too late for Newcrest?
We've seen a number of high-profile CEOs depart, a number of big companies over the last 12 months, in fact. This is no different. Perhaps it was a little bit too little too late. Newcrest had over 4 or 5 production downgrades in the last few years. They had large write-downs, multi-billion-dollar write-downs, operational problems, places like Lihir, Goswong, high costs at Hidden Valley. So the CEO departure is probably the icing on the cake. Investors themselves are actually demanding performance these days. They're not investing into companies to watch their share prices drop. So the CEO is the captain of the ship, and a new CEO is, in effect, a new beginning. And we've seen that because the share price rallied on the news as well. So, and we have seen that before with a number of other high-profile companies.
And I mean, we've maybe given, or I've been maybe giving Australia a bit of a bad rap, but you get companies like Barrick and Alistair who have sold off projects, and these projects were snapped up very, very quickly. So, I mean, is it fair to say that maybe these are just companies that are not doing a good job mining in Australia, and it's not necessarily Australia that's to blame?
I think it's probably a reaction as well to the state of the commodity price as well. They're pulling their heads in, they're focusing on their core assets and basically letting go any of their fringe assets. And for people like Barrick, that's the Yilgarn South assets. They're actually still looking at selling other assets in Australia as well. So as well as the Alistair guys focusing on their lowest cost operation, which is their operations in Turkey, which is in fact a great operation on its own, and getting rid of their higher cost operations, which are the ones in Australia.
And let's wrap up with third quarter results on deck for majors. We've seen smaller companies releasing high production. Or higher production, excuse me. What do you see coming out of the majors in the next couple of weeks?
I think to bring investors back to the commodities market, the gold market, these guys have got to shoot the lights out. They've got to improve their costs. They're increasing production out of sight. We're seeing big production increases against a lower gold price environment. So these guys are performing very, very well. So I would expect the majors to be at least trying to outperform. It's better to overperform than to underdeliver currently in this market as well. So I would expecting lower costs globally across the board with these guys and higher production.
Excellent. Well, James, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Alex.
And thank you for watching. If you have any comments or questions, please don't hesitate to send them to newsfeedback@kitco.com, or you can find me on Twitter @Alex_Letourneau. Have a good one.